I'm at this side border and this wonderful yellow fragrant Erysimum, Walberton's yellow sunshine, it's been flowering for months, and there's just a part of it now that's just encroaching over the lawn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piece off, but at the same time I'm going to use the pieces of branch for some cuttings so I can actually increase the plant numbers as well, because I'd like to see at least another part maybe further down the border. So I'm just going to snip this right off now and we'll take it to the potting tray and we'll get some cuttings done. So I've just snipped the whole branch off and there's multiple cuttings I can take from this. All these stems are perfect material for making brand new plants, so I'm really excited. So I'm going to get that now to the potting tray and we'll get them potted up. I'm going to recycle this orange juice carton because these make the most wonderful little propagators, and I've been using stuff like this from probably the mid-90s when I used to grow a lot of things at home. Didn't have a lot of money, and any kind of bits of plastic or tin cans I would utilise to make little plant pots and propagating little units. So the good thing about these is once you've cut the top off and made it into two parts, this top bit becomes the lid, and you can adjust the amount of air that's available in there just by taking off the top. So all I've done so far is just slice it into two. I've made some holes at the bottom, and what I'm going to do is just part fill it with this gritty compost. I'm not going to fill it too far because I need to leave room for the actual cuttings at the top as well. So that much kind of compost inside. And so this big piece that I've cut off, I'm just going to now slice just a few pieces and detach them from the main stem. And I'm probably going to try and get 4 in this container. So I'm just looking for some nice pieces of stem. So we're kind of looking at that kind of size. So I'm just going to detach these bottom leaves and just nip out that growing tip, because that'll send messages down through the stem to tell the piece of stem to start to make roots rather than to continue the growth at the top. So I'm doing the same with this even larger one, and I'm just going to cut that down just below a leaf node, and then the same again. So these are quite stiff plants now. So we're talking that kind of size. Again, nipping out the top growing point on each one of these. And this is a lovely perennial wallflower. It has lovely scent and a vibrant yellow flower, which is great for the time of year it begins to flower, which is probably mid-spring. So I'm now just going to put them just down the side of this container and just firm them in a little bit, and just making sure they're not touching too much. I'm going to take a few more of these leaves off as well, pop them right down inside. And a little bit more compost just to fill it up slightly more. And then what I'll do is I'll give them a nice water, and then in terms of the lid, it's just a case of just squeezing it down a little bit so that it just fits inside nicely. So just like that. You're always going to get a little bit of a gap when you're squeezing this in, but the good thing about these plastic bottles is you can actually see the actual stem inside the compost, So you'll be able to see when these roots start to come through, you'll know it's time to then take them out and start planting them into their own container. So I think that's wonderful. And this can be left somewhere, not in full sun, maybe just somewhere by the house that I normally put, or maybe just on the kitchen window ledge. But there's enough heat now, so this will be fine. Doesn't need to have any kind of greenhouse or anything like that. This itself is its own little mini greenhouse. So hopefully we'll have at least a couple of cuttings from that. While I've got so much cutting material, what I'm also going to do is do another container full of cuttings. So I've already got the cuttings prepared, and what I'm going to try is, I don't normally use rooting powder, but what I'd like to see is the success rate between the ones I've just done in the orange juice carton without rooting powder and the ones that I'm going to do now with rooting powder. So I'm going to get my cuttings and just dab them into the rooting powder, knocking off any excess on the side. And I'm just going to pop them again down the side of the same compost mix with added grit, and I'm just going to see if I get more success, less success, or whether it's going to be the same success as the ones without the rooting powder. I'm just going to keep things virtually the same, and instead of using a orange juice container for these, I'm just going to place a polythene bag over the top, so it does the same kind of thing as what the carton does in terms of keeping in the moisture. I know a lot of people swear by rooting powder. I have never used it. I always find things kind of root quite easily without the use of it. I'm just going to slice these top leaves slightly lower, just so that they're not touching the other plants in the centre. And we'll come back at some point and we'll see the difference.